Netsanet, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being with us. A lot of questions. Let's start with the first one, the one on a lot of people's minds. How do you see the impact of the ICC on the African continent today?
It's a mixed results, to say the least. On the one hand, I think it's safe to say that the ICC itself and the Rome Statute, which is widely supported by African member states, 60% of African member states are part of the ICC. It signals a strong political statement that African nations will reject impunity, and that there is a determination to fight impunity and address core crimes, heinous crimes that have been committed in the continent. So in that sense, there is some significant political and moral impact. Beyond that, I think, contrary to the criticism on the ICC of its focus on situations in Africa, the very fact that there's been attempts to investigate allegations of crimes and prosecute them in Africa by itself is some impact. And it's insofar as victims are concerned, the fact that attention is paid to atrocities in the continent is indeed encouraging and welcome. The problem lies in the fact that the several cases have fallen apart, including the Kenya ones, and as we see it now in DRC and etc., which still means that victims are still awaiting justice. So to the extent its impact in delivering justice, in delivering accountability for serious crimes committed in the continent, I'm afraid to say that the ICC's performance has been far from satisfactory.
We just celebrated in places like New York and The Hague the 20th anniversary of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court.
Yeah.
But the Rome Statute isn't the same thing as the ICC. It's a statute, and then you have the actual building and the people who populate it. What's been the impact of the Rome Statute on situations and states in Africa?
It partly relates to my initial response. I think the main impact is in codifying the African member states' commitment to their shift from non-interference to indifference, right? So it's a statement that we collectively have made as when we constitute the African Union, that we will no longer hide behind the principle of non-interference in sovereign affairs, that we actually will make sure that never again we will see another Rwanda happening in Africa. So that is what Rome Statute symbolizes in Africa. Beyond that, I think it is also an instrument that has enjoyed wide support. African member states have been the originators, the champions of this statute from the beginning, and widely supported by as many as 60% of the member states in that regard. So it imposes obligations domestically. More needs to be done to domesticate those obligations and actually implement them, which is a major problem. But I think it has played a significant role in laying out the legal, moral, and institutional structures that hopefully addresses impunity at some stage.
What do you think will happen with regards to the South Africa ICC relationship?
It's encouraging to hear a hint from as you said, from the Minister of Foreign Affairs towards opening up a debate domestically. That is encouraging, and it needs to happen, and it needs to happen in the most sincere way, constructive way possible domestically. And we do hope that the debate goes outside of the government as well, because civil society and citizens of South Africa do have a role in shaping this debate as well. So as and when this debate actually happens, I think there's a greater role that all of us can play in that debate. I'm really hoping that the current context globally, regionally and nationally will help the government to awaken that the direction of travel is heading is not the right one.
Amnesty International and you yourself have been at the forefront of shedding light on the Malabo Protocol. You've also criticized it. What amendments to the protocol do you think are necessary to implement before it's kind of rolled out and any kind of court with jurisdiction over international crimes is set up?
In terms of amendment, we believe that much needs to be considered, but if priority was to be given, we do feel that one, of course, is the controversial issue of affording immunity to serving head of states and senior state officials. We do believe that this is a regressive step in terms of developments under international law towards rejecting impunity for atrocities committed. That needs to be reconsidered, that needs to be amended in our view. Secondly, we do believe that the definition of crimes as provided in the protocol, including the crime of terrorism and others, need to be fleshed out and needs to be more specific, accurate, and avoid any possible confusion about what the crime is.
There's been a question as to how any African court with criminal jurisdiction over international crimes might relate to the International Criminal Court. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think the more the merrier. I think we could use more institutional mechanisms to address impunity. Unfortunately, one of the shortfalls of the Malabo Protocol is the fact that it doesn't explicitly provide for cooperation and complementarity mechanisms with existing international justice mechanisms like the International Criminal Court. Its silence speaks to the politics that informed the adoption of the protocol, obviously, and the tension at the time between the ICC and many AU member states. But despite that silence, we do believe that the broader principles of complementarity as contained in the Rome Statute should also apply with respect to this court if and when it becomes operational.
Just a couple of weeks ago, Kenya submitted a request to the UN General Assembly to put on the agenda a possible request to the International Court of Justice for an advisory opinion on the matter of head of state immunity under international law.
Yeah.
If that does go forward and there is a request for an advisory opinion from the General Assembly to the International Court of Justice, how do you think that will play out? And will it resolve this question and debate around head of state immunity once and for all?
Irrespective of which way it goes, a decision, whether or not it will resolve the existing debate, dilemma and tension around the immunity debate, I doubt it. I think it all goes down to political will and member states willing to abide by whatever decision that comes out, and institutions as well respecting or complying or choosing not to comply with whatever they interpret as the outcome of that decision. So it might not necessarily resolve the debates. That's what a point I'm saying. It certainly is the right path to go, to seek opinion. It will give authoritative response to the debate, which will be in the hands of the judges at the ICC and elsewhere to entertain in the future. But resolving the true tension lies outside of the judicial platforms. It's political and it's accountability.
Netsanet Belay, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us.
A pleasure. Thank you very much.